row number 2, and all front-wheel drive, row number 3 with 2 Seats. And then we got the BMW and the Audi TT, which will be interesting to see how that gets off the line on the 4th row of the grid. And Bradley's get away very, very slowly indeed. It's a great start from Gary Hufford, who draws himself alongside Darren Goes, but is on the wrong side of the circuit heading up towards the Paddock Hill bend, so he's going to have to brave it out all the way around the outside if he wants to make it stick. So Darren Goes leads the way. Gary Hufford in 2nd position, and the car that started on the front row of the grid is down into 5th place at the moment, in danger of dropping down into 6th position potentially. So Darren Goes leads the way. Gary Hufford there in 2nd position, and 3rd, is that Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley's car that's there in 3rd place? I think it is, isn't it? The championship leaders, yeah, had a poor qualifying, only qualified 6th quickest, but are up to 3rd in the early stages of the race. Great start from the number 1 Seat.
Yeah, electric getaway from the Seat. There was a little bit of contact between Adrian Bradley in their BMW and the Team Darkside VW Golf, which has been very busy already today. A little bit of side-to-side contact as they pulled away from the line, because the BMW didn't really go anywhere as the leaders come up towards the timing line for the first time in this one. It's Darren Goes with the advantage, with the Hufford orange BMW right on his tail, and that fast start in Seat Leon with Jackson and being shared between Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley. Pitchley, a former Renault Clio Cup UK front runner, so a very handy driver, and that number 1 machine going nicely in 3rd spot. And look at the diesel-powered VW Golf as well. You can never rule it out because the parkings are right there in 4th.
Yeah, and this has huge implications for the championship, because the championship leaders are in 3rd place. They are only 3 points in the lead of the championship when you take drop scores into account from Darren Goes, who leads the race. And what are there? There are 30 points for a race win, 27 for 2nd, 24 for 3rd, extra points depending on how many competitors you beat in your class, extra point for pole position, and extra point for fastest lap. And at the moment, where Darren Goes is sufficient for him, if they stay where they are, and there's still 43 minutes to go, for him to claim the championship and overhaul that very slender points deficit that exists between himself and the Nick Jackson Ollie Pitchley car. There is there in 3rd position at the moment, and it's still bottled up behind the orange BMW of Gary Hufford, who is quite within his own right. Yes, he's having an impact on the championship, but he wants to try and win this race if he can, as he sits there in 2nd.
Yeah, and he was showing well in qualifying, but did fall down the order slightly towards the end of the session, but going very well indeed in the early part of this one. Scott Parkin still in 4th. We've got the other parking machine, that's the number 6 Audi TT further back. That's Ryan Parkin in the car that was previously driven by Simon Walton in VW Cup. That's getting involved in a squabble with the Damien and Adrian Bradley BMW. So too involved is the Brichter and Smith Seat. So that's a teammate to the Ollie Pitchley and Nick Jackson car further up the road. Just the black bumpers and sort of black bodywork helping differentiate it from its teammate, which is looking very aggressive, trying to get 2nd place away from Hufford in the bright orange BMW. So lights ablaze on Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley's 3rd place car. They're meaning business, and in this late autumnal season at Brands, you can really see those flashes of the lights shining even in the early part of the afternoon.
Yeah, he's desperate to try and get himself through and ahead of Gary Hufford. Gary, who hasn't done many of the rounds of the championship really, so he's languishing rather down in 15th position in the championship standings, but he's 2nd on the road at the moment, and we'll want to see if he can hang on to the coattails of Darren Goes, who is just starting to edge away a little bit more now. The lead advantage was just over a second last time through, 1.151 seconds between the number 22 Seat Leon and the number 45 orange BMW, with the NJM Nick Jackson and Ollie Pitchley driven or shared Seat Leon Supercup sitting there in 3rd place, with Scott Parkin there in 4th position. 5th place is the Dylan Brichter and Martin Smith number 2 car, and completing the top 6 at the moment, having started on the front row of the grid, is the Team Legacy BMW of Adrian and Damien Bradley, that are dropping down through the order, aren't they? Yeah,
they're coming under increasing pressure from the Audi TT of Ryan Parkin, who in his own right is under pressure as well from Callum Noble in the Thorny Motorsport run BMW. So the purple with the green flashes of Callum Noble had that radiator issue yesterday in testing, going better in the finale for the MSV Supercup. He's right on the coattails of the number 6 Audi TT as they come down the Cooper Straight. Going to show his nose up the inside at Surtees. Is here very close between the 2 rear-wheel drive cars, and they've got the BMW, which started so far up the order but fell like a stone off the getaway on the line. That's the Adrian and Damien Bradley BMW, which is currently at the bottom end of the top 6.
Yeah, and coming under pressure, as we say, from that Audi TT, and then Callum Noble's BMW not that far away. For the lead of the race, Darren Goes, is he edging away ever more? No, the gap came down by 1/10 of a second last time through, so Seat Leon still leads, but Gary Hufford was 1/10 of a second quicker than the race leader that time through, but still hasn't shaken away the current championship leading car that sits there in 3rd position. But despite the flashing of the lights for the Nick Jackson-Ollie Pidgley shared car, they've not been able to muster their way through up into 2nd position, and now, if anything, are just a bit too far away really to attack as they head up through Surtees and McLaren and on towards Clearways Corner. They're about to chalk lap number 6 into the book. We've got just under 10 minutes, however, until the pit window opens, so we're only 5 minutes into this 45-minute race.
Further back, leading Class B is Martin Smith in his Seat Ibiza. He's in 10th spot currently in number 24, just ahead of Chris Payne, who you'll remember from the last race before lunch as the 5th place car's having a good tussle. That's the dark side run VW Golf going side by side with the Brichter and Smith Seat Leon Supercup through Druid, through Paddock as well, into Graham Hill Bend. Surely not. Yes, they're going to go side by side through half the lap of the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, and a change for position then. So 4th place is now home to the Seat Leon. It dislodges the Scott Parkin VW Golf, and we now have the 2 teammates in their almost identical NJM Racing run Seats in 3rd and 4th place. The leader, Darren Goes, is about to come up to the first part of traffic. Yeah, the first little bit of traffic that he's going to meet is going to be the number 94 Porsche that Chris Wilson's Bull is sharing with. As we say, Richardson is the surname. We've never got to the bottom of what the Christian name is for the driver he's sharing with. I still haven't been able to find it on an amendment sheet anywhere, so I don't think that documentation has reached us as yet. So that car moves neatly out of the way, allows both race-leading Seat and 2nd place BMW to squeeze its way through. We should see the Nick Jackson-Ollie Pidgley Seat also pass that Porsche on the run in towards Graham Hill Bend, which it does. Now, despite the fact that the Team Darkside BMW lost the place, it still leads its class, doesn't it? Because it is power-to-weight ratio that dictates the class, and that Volkswagen Golf runs in Class A, so that's for cars between 176 and 205 brake horsepower per tonne. The car that went through and ahead of it was a Class S car, which is the most powerful class that we have this year in Supercup, 206 to 240 brake horsepower. And Darren Goes, Hufford go across the timing line as one, just 6 between them, not much between the top 2 as that squabble between the dark side Golf and the BMW is now starting to heat up, because Scott Parkin is falling down the order. He's been passed by that Seat, as we mentioned earlier, and now he's coming under pressure from the Bradleys in their BMW, and that's Adrian and Damien Bradley past the VW Golf on the run into Paddock Hill Bend, and now Scott Parkin is going to come under pressure from his brother Ryan Parkin in the Audi TT. So it hasn't been a great last couple of laps for Scott, who took a comfortable race win in the first encounter of the day of the MSV Track Day Championship. Now he's got his brother looming in the mirrors in the Audi TT. I've
got to say thank you to Jamie Moore from Moore's Motors, who has given me the starting drivers for the 2 cars from NJM. The number 1 car, Nick Jackson, is the starting driver of that. The number 2 car, Dylan Brichter, is the starting driver for that. That has just found its way to me, so thank you to Jamie Moore for that, for at least tidying up the drivers that we've got at the sharp end of this field. So it's Darren Goes that leads, Gary Hufford in 2nd place. It is then Nick Jackson, the championship leader, there in 3rd place, but the sister car to it sitting behind in the hands of Dylan Brichter. And at the moment, the way things stand mathematically, the car that leads is going to be lifting the championship trophy, which will be presented later on this evening at the MSV Centre.
Yeah, and Scott Parkin's lost another place. I think it could be an issue the VW Golf is there, because he's really fallen down the order in the last 3 laps. Scott Parkin has lost place after place, and now his latest rival to nip past is the BMW of the Thorny Motorsport run car. So that's Callum Noble, and now it looks like the other Parkin is in trouble. That's Ryan Parkin in the Audi TT. So the brothers are having a tough time of it on the Indy circuit currently.
4-second lap, and whilst he's at the tail of that queue of cars, he is certainly not dropping away from them. He's, as you suggested, done all of the hard work of catching them. Now the ever more difficult part is trying to squeeze your way through, and the one thing he won't want to do is squeeze his way through and past his teammate, then be contact and him take his teammate, who is the championship leader, out of the race. So he needs to be careful.
He does, yeah, and the MJM team will be keeping a close eye on this, and Seats still going strong. We've got three of the leading 4 cars are the Spanish Seats, with the BMW in the mix as well, in the form of number 45 with Gary Hufford in his AB Motorsport run, and BMW E36. So that's how it stands currently. They've got more traffic to deal with. That John Cooper Renault Clio, a rare change of manufacturer for the Daniels Motorsport squad this weekend, still squabbling with the Porsche as it comes down out of Clark Curve towards Paddock Hill Bend. Actually, that's the back marker, I think, isn't it? The 94 car.
Yeah, that's Chris Walton's ball, I think, that is about to be gobbled up by our race leader. So Darren Goes sides his way through and past the traffic. Gary Hufford, that time through, looked as though he'd closed the gap a little bit more. The last lap that they did actually shows Gary Hufford was about 0.3 of a second slower, but I think just as they came up towards Paddock Hill Bend at the end of one lap and the start of the next, the traffic played into the hands of Hufford, so he is a bit closer to the race leader Darren Goes than he was maybe a lap or so ago. We've still got Nick Jackson and then Dylan Brichter sitting there in 3rd and 4th places respectively. But out front, Darren Goes is on to lap number 15 and leads by just a shade over 0.75 of a second at the start of the lap that they just started.
Yeah, not much between them at all. Still those fastest lap bragging rights go to Dylan Brichter in 4th place, but he has got that awkward situation of not wanting to have any dramas with the teammate, which could wrap up the championship this weekend. It's a difficult position for the fastest car on circuit, at least in recent laps, the 52.594 for the 4th placed number 2 Seat Supercup, which is a car which is still used in Mondello Park in Ireland as its own one-make championship still for this model of the Seat Leon. It still shows a competitive package running at the right at the pointy end of fields in Britain and in Ireland as well, considering the age of the car, because it is getting on a bit now. When you look at the Darren Goes Seat ahead, it is quite a bit more modern.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's the best part of 15, heading towards 18 years of age since that model of Leon was first introduced. It only seems like a blink of an eye ago, but yeah, quite some time ago now. And I've always been, I've always liked the Super Copa cars. I've always liked the Clio Cup cars. They just look proper racing cars,
yeah,
don't
they do.
they?
Like you mentioned, the one mate that supported the BTCC, yeah, really looked great with a big field of identical Seats and Clios, and I'm just pleased they found a home still racing today at Brands right at the tail end of the 2021 season. There's still a healthy number of these former one-make cars out on track.
Well, it was a European Championship, wasn't there?
Yeah, it came here as well.
Seasons. Yeah, it was hugely competitive. So leading quartet down in towards Graham Hill Bend. They're just starting to maybe pair off a little bit now. I think that Nick Jackson is losing out to Gary Hufford, so the BMW is disappearing further up the road, and Nick Jackson is falling into the clutches of Dylan Brichter, his teammate. The pit window, though, now is open, so it is only just open. 30 minutes of the race to go. Pit window opens. Is anybody going to blink in the top 4? No, they all continue round for a further lap. The order remains the same. Car number 22, Darren Goes, leads the race by less than a second from Gary Hufford. In fact, it's more than a second now. It's 1.068 of a second between himself and Gary Hufford. Nick Jackson and Dylan Brichter, 3rd and 4th, separated by less than half a second.
Yeah, they're definitely 2 pairs now. We've got this train of cars coming out of Graham Hill Bend, which is a lot further back. It involves Chris Payne, who's running in 10th spot in his pink and yellow Caterham. He's behind the 53 Renault Clio, which is
Kevin Sterling.
Thank you. He was a late entry, not on the entry list. So Kevin Sterling in the Clio. The lights ablaze on the Caterham of Chris Payne, which is the first of the drivers to go into pit lane. So that's Chris Payne into the pit box, and the Caterham dives into its position, indicator on, and Payne's the first to blink of the 17 runners.
Yeah, Nick Jackson is in though, ready to hand over to Ollie Pidgley. So that is the championship leading car into the pit lane. And where are they going to feed back out? Because remember, in terms of the championship, Darren Goes is just 3 points adrift of Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley in the championship standings when you take drop scores into account. So it's 6 rounds to the championship. You count your best 5. So Nick Jackson and Ollie Pidgley drop 22 points as their worst score. Darren Goes drops 23 points as his worst score. So it's all rather tight in terms of the championship. They dropped from 148 and 146 respectively to 126 and 123 respectively. So it's really almost who finishes ahead of the other, isn't it, as to who's going to pick up the championship title.
Yeah, that's what it'll come down to, it seems. Good idea to get Ollie Pidgley in the car. Very quick peddler from one make. Action has been involved in the MSV Track Day series for a while now. It looks like we've got one car off, and that is the Ryan Park in Audi TT. So Mark just spotted that at the back of the commentary box. He's pulled off on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, safely behind the tyre wall, so we won't need any yellow flags at Graham Hill Bend. But the troublesome Audi, which was already in the pit lane earlier in the race, even before the pit window opened, is now out of this one on the old Rallycross cut through on the back of the pit lane. Yeah, shame for that, because whatever it was, they've got it sorted, and it seemed to be back to the kind of pace it ought to have been doing again, but it's clearly cried enough. So we mentioned Chris Payne was in the pit lane. We haven't mentioned Martin Cullen.